She's Katy Montgomery. He's Justin Joseph. These best friends are serving subpoenas to bad advice weekly with Wrong Way Forward. Now, here's Katy and Justin.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's spooky episode of Wrong Way Forward. This week, we are talking about all things extraterrestrial. Katy, maybe you can tell why we're going to talk about this.
Well, Justin is a huge moviegoer. I'm here in Denver, and he said, I really want to see this movie called Disclosure Day. And I'm like, Disclosure what? I had never even heard of this. And then I saw like a quick synopsis and thought, this could be a fantastic movie.
And it got good reviews.
And good reviews. And Steven Spielberg, Emily Blunt, Carmen Domingo. Yes, like great cast, wonderful people. And there's been a lot of hype. And we go in, and
You could barely stay awake.
I proceeded to fall asleep in the first 15 minutes. And then I looked over at Justin, and he was dead asleep. And the whole time, I was like, what the hell is going on? And I thought I couldn't have missed that much in the first 15 minutes.
And by the end, we can talk about what happens in the movie, because by the time this airs, if you haven't seen it, you don't want to see it.
You don't want to see it. And so Justin and I were walking home, and he goes, I never want to talk about the movie ever again. It was that bad. And of course, I wanted to talk about it and how bad it was.
I in my head, I thought, is there anybody who's going to watch that? Because you said you also looked over the lady who said next to it, she was getting hit dirty.
Oh, no, when it was over, they were probably like 70, and she looked at her friend with the biggest well, I just can't get back 2.5 hours of my life back on that one.
I mean, it's exactly what you expected. It's Steven Spielberg, and you might as well think of E.T. and have real-life aliens.
Well, at one point you said, where's E.T. when we need him? But what was interesting is before the movie even started, I said to Justin, do you believe that there's life beyond humans on Earth? Like, do you believe, would you say that alien life? And we both said yes, like a resounding, did not even have to think about it.
But when we were prepping this episode, we literally said, is that a stupid episode? And then we said, well, 5 years ago, yes. It would be like, no one's talking about alien life. But with the release of these UFO files, if you've been following the news, Donald Trump made a decision when he became president. He was going to release all of the classified UFO files. So there's been tranches that are released every few weeks, generally around any scandal.
Yes.
But there has been some crazy stuff in there. Have you followed it at all?
I mean, not really, but I would love for you to kind of give our listeners, because I'm thinking of some of our listeners who are not, and I love that I'm about to use the word sci-fi, because sci-fi is fantasy and made up, but, and it's fiction. Fiction is not fact. But I think we have a lot of viewers who maybe are not in this space and paying attention and might flip the page or go to the next story. So can you give us kind of just a quick synopsis?
Yeah. So there have been 3 tranches that have been released right now. It's supposed to be progressively or get progressively more unbelievable, I would say.
Okay.
I would say the most interesting thing is the people who landed on, I say Buzz Aldrin.
Neil Armstrong?
Neil Armstrong. That crew.
Yes.
Paul crews, they have audio from them talking about UFOs they were seeing in the sky that the government thought was so explosive, immediately classified.
Right.
Going back and forth, and the various crews are going to talk about what these things are that nobody knows. So there's video of things like that. There's also the videos that you've seen probably in news reports.
Yep.
Objects that no one can explain. They're moving in directions and opposite direction. No one can explain. What they have promised and what we've not seen yet is they allegedly do have some evidence of extraterrestrial life that has been.
Yes.
I haven't seen that yet, but there are people who talked about who have seen it.
Right.
So that's still supposed to be coming.
Well, and I think for us to kind of stay on topic, we were trying to think, what is the wrong way forward in terms of alien life? And I think 2 things that we're going to talk today is probably about being curious and being open and thinking beyond your kind of immediate day-to-day life. Are you open to that? And I think something that you're seeing from things like Project Hail Mary and even Disclosure Day is that what is the definition of humanity? And it goes above and beyond maybe what we can taste, touch, see, and hear right now, right? But I think the other thing is, what is the right way forward? I mean, I'm going to make an assumption. This is a total assumption. I am not well read on this. But when they had those UFO files, what was the conversation in the back room of not releasing that, of not having journalism cover that, of that not getting into everyone's kind of TV and sharing that? And what were the things that people were thinking of Are we not mature enough to handle it? What could be,
Well, I'll tell you what, because that brings up to that thing. Apparently, before they released the first tranche of photos, the Trump White House summoned all of the religious leaders privately.
Okay.
And you need to prepare your flocks.
Yes.
So they thought it was going to happen. And they basically said, we think it's going to have an impact on what their leaders got, what people
Right.
got. Because up to this point, everybody thought we were the center of the universe. God created us.
Right.
And so they were preparing pastors for that. And so I think there were questions about whether it would impact people's belief in religion.
Right. And I think that's interesting in and of itself. And I mean, and, you know, we can kind of go down this path where we do elect people, they do represent us, but are they making the best decisions, and are they treating us like mature, grown adults, and how to process this? And I think what'll be really interesting is what is the right way moving forward in terms of this information, this research, and how do we, you know, kind of operate around all of this new data.
And I thought it was even in that movie, if you remember this quote, I thought this was essentially part of the movie, just how it is, because it did bring up questions of religion. Undertones in this movie, but at one point she said, "Do you remember the verse in Genesis where she said,
Yes.
God created humans?" And the lady corrected it and said, "They said no. What they said is God created humans
On Earth. Yeah.
And so I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. And you know, what I think is going to be kind of, you know, exciting is, you know, how this is going to shape kind of moving forward. So I think, you know, probably the first question would be what is the wrong way forward in regarding this kind of information?
And what do we need to be prepared for? You and I joked about it. Like, what would, if something like this were to happen, what would you want to know?
I mean, so much.
Because you said you actually used this question in your coaching.
I mean, sometimes in coaching, particularly, let's say someone's wanting to pivot, someone's not happy in their job, someone's trying to find out what they do well. You know, one of the questions I do is sometimes in coaching, and excuse me.
Bless you.
Okay, here we go, y'all. I do it like 50 times. And plus there's 2 dogs, so it's double your pleasure. Is that, you know, sometimes you try to get people out of their kind of day-to-day thinking. You give them kind of a question so they're not so attached to the answer. And sometimes I have asked people, if aliens were to land on Earth, what would you teach them? Okay. You know, what is your knowledge base? Like, I try to get in, like, you know, what would you be excited to talk about, right? And it just kind of gets them separated from the, I don't know what I want to do, I'm in fight or flight. So it's kind of an open-ended question. So,
and you like insightful answers.
I think it just allows people to start to explore to where I can kind of ask even more kind of probing questions. But yes, because it's kind of ridiculous, right? It's like, it's not an everyday occurrence, right? I mean, and so people start to think, and I'm like, you literally, this is not somebody in another country who speaks in another language. This is literally someone who does not understand the human race, who does not understand how Earth operates. What are you going to teach them? You know, and so, and then you start to see when people light up. And then when you make a comment, you just lit up when you said this, people start to kind of have the aha moment.
I was going to say, because that's the other thing. I would say I've always thought this about alien life is like, whatever. So this is, well, we keep that planet, there can't possibly life like that because there's no water. I'm like, that's such a limited way of viewing the world.
Yes.
Some other life form is going to need water.
Yeah, and if you watch Disclosure Day, those...
You'll sleep through it.
You'll sleep through it, yes. If you need it, if you're in your 50s and you need a good afternoon nap.
Well, we were the youngest people.
We were the youngest people in there, but y'all, it was hysterical. We get there and there's literally no lights on in the theater. And I was like, Justin, where are we going? What are we going to do? And he's like, just follow me. But he's like 50 steps ahead of me. Well, the older people came in and it was like they lost their mind. I'm like, they really couldn't figure out where they were going. Somebody had to go get someone to turn on the lights. It was like end of days. So if there was an alien that ever was going to show up at the AMC theater in Denver, I don't know how well.
Would not watch Disclosure.
I don't know how well those people would have done. Justin, on the other hand, would be knocking over all those old folks to get the first question in. But you're also a sci-fi nerd.
It was, and I didn't think it was terrible. I just was not what I expected.
But can you please respond to you're a sci-fi nerd?
I don't think I think I like Star Wars.
I mean, that's sci-fi.
The sci-fi is more like Twilight, so I don't get into too much of that stuff. I can watch any good movie, I'll say that.
Yeah.
Anything with the Steven Spielberg, I think, does usually best. I mean,
I mean, I think he can have some.
maybe we should start making movie groups.
But let's take a break and then come back, and we're going to kind of talk about the wrong way forward in terms of kind of this exploration and being open to, is there other life, besides humans and Earth? You've been listening to Wrong Way Forward, where bad advice goes to die and then gets resurrected just so we can roast it again.
If you're enjoying the chaos, hit like and subscribe and come back every Thursday for new episodes.
Have a new topic or some disastrously bad advice you want to dissect? Email wrongwayforwardpodcast@gmail.com. Include your contact info.
Now back to Wrong Way Forward.
Roasting the worst advice ever. Welcome back to the Katy and Justin podcast.
They're giving you insight into the government's investigation into the extraterrestrial. Hey, look at this. This is how an eyewitness captured the video with an iPhone 14 Pro Max last July. You see those two bright orbs? They appear to move in tandem in the northeast sky. Let's look at another one. This one's also from the northeast. It shows a plasma-like orb hovering above a pond. This one was also from an iPhone. It was also authenticated by the government. On top of that, there's also new audio from a 1962 interview between journalist Walter Cronkite and astronaut Gordon Cooper, where he claims a large number of, quote, exceptionally well-qualified people, end quote, have seen objects without a logical explanation. Let's take a quick listen to that.
So I think that there are so many possibilities, so many thousands of possibilities of other planets out somewhere in the universe that would have a livable atmosphere. So those are just a few of the news clips that have resurfaced after the most recent release of the UFO files. And what's interesting about that last one is this is someone who was actually, he wasn't allowed to talk about it. It was classified, but even Kelly was getting either.
Yes.
On a subject. But really interesting stuff.
But, Justin, like, for topic at hand, what do you think the wrong way forward is to handle this kind of information? I think you made a really good comment that it's like it's so short-sighted to just assume that everybody, or I love how I call them everybody, but these other kind of signs of life are exactly like us, right? And so I think that's a fairly narcissistic, closed-minded way to kind of be, you can only think within this kind of one realm.
Does that surprise you? That's just generally how humans, probably Americans, especially think.
I mean, I would hope not. I mean, I think curiosity is better. I think people who are curious might be more open-minded, might be more open to diversity. I'm going to just throw this out there, maybe more self-secure. And, and because also what happens when people have fear?
Yeah. 100%.
Right?
And the issue, the right way forward is, I think, for whether we're talking about something as silly as alien life or not so silly, but anything, you've got to be curious and open-minded.
Well, I mean, yeah, definitely. But I think, what I also found fascinating about kind of Disclosure Day is it's like, why is the image of an alien? And I do know that when they have interviewed people who have had sightings, they're not pulling this out of thin air. Right. But they're always slimy with those slanted big eyes that take up their entire face. And, they're always in some kind of incubator because they might die. And I'm like, why aren't we envisioning this another way? And why does it always have to be that they take over our body or our soul, or the humans are the vessel? Why is that always the storyline?
Well, I totally agree. They always tell it the same way. Well, what's also interesting, and not just you reference to these Trojans, but there are interviews with several, people groups, whatever, they have always put these aliens in three categories. One of them is called the Greys. This is the most widely reported types in modern UFO history. They are described as short, 3 or 4 tall, spiny and hairless with smooth gray skin, large but precise heads. This is what we see.
Yes.
The reptilian is described as bipedal, penal. I assume that means 2 feet.
Yes.
Does it mean that?
Yes.
Intelligent beings, or not in my case, resembling large lizards. And the third of the Nordics, which are humanoids, described as tall, highly attractive, presumably similar to humans. So people who have claimed to have seen these, and this word is a little
Yeah, it does.
They all three come into these three categories.
Well, and I mean, that begs the question, right?
Which
The question with if the sightings show that, and then you watch movies and it shows that, and then you see one, and I mean, I'm just going to be honest. If I saw an alien, I mean, I might pee my pants. I might hyperventilate. I mean, I would hope I would get it together to be like, who the hell are you? Where are you from? And what do you want?
Well, that's what we talked about before. What would you want to know? Whether it's from an alien or maybe it's even when you pass and you get your few minutes on St. Peter's doorstep. What do you want to know about things from the beyond?
Well, I'm going to make an assumption, that they're not going to be able to comment on my own experience, right? So where are my mother and dad now, but, I would just be interested to know what is it like where you're from? What would you ask?
Gosh, I think I'd want to know something bigger picture because I feel like, and we've talked about this before, that the human race, the world race is such a, it's such a crossover right now.
Right.
Like, I want to know something that put that into perspective. Like, everything that's happening on Earth is too small-minded.
Well, I think that's interesting because you're making the assumption that someone, I keep using the word someone, but something or whatever, that extraterrestrial has a perspective. And I'm not I personally, when I think about it, and this is live thinking here, I don't think of them as having any greater power than.
That's so true. And I'm assuming that they do.
And they do. Right. And I don't go as far as godlike, right? Because I think I'm also almost thinking like, not that we're exactly like them, but like a one-to-one, and they're still a greater kind of operator in the universe.
I'm assuming they have something to offer us. And the truth is.
Agreed.
Yeah. And in fact, what's interesting, I don't want to get this away, is it's pretty much all.
Just don't ruin it. Don't be a spoiler.
The various thing is the alien offers something.
Yes.
And that something was a sort of perspective. And I think, that was really Spielberg.
Yeah. And I could see that. Like, tell me where you're from and what are you seeing? What are your observations? Or what is your takeaways? Or what is your advice?
It also probably has so much to do with who you are as a person. There are people that want something technological or educational from them.
Right.
Help us solve nuclear fission. Help us solve climate crisis or whatever. There are people who are going to want some theological, tell us about the meaning of life.
Right.
Like that. So it really depends on your perspective and your background.
Well, and I'm just, as we're sitting here, I'm thinking, how could people the wrong way forward to think that this is not even possible? We've broken the sound barrier, right? We've done heart transplants. We have launched a man onto the. Yes. I mean, how does no one think? And, and we've been putting crap up in the air, and that's my technical term because I cannot. No, but satellites and weather balloons and sound, radio waves and sound waves, like we have been putting so much, and then also just trash, out into the world. How are we so naive to think that no one else is picking that up?
Do you think that there are people, I don't know that I know anyone. I get 3 years ago, 5 years ago, I could probably point out half of people that would say, no, you're silly. I don't think anyone can believe that. Do you think people still believe there's nothing else?
1,000,000,000%. Let's talk about the current people who believe things, and I'm not going to get political, but some people think January 6th was not a criminal act.
Yeah. And I read to your point, it's also why they made some of them put those religious leaders in to say, you need to warn your flocks because there's no way your flocks are going to believe this.
Well, and do you remember that movie Contact with Jodie?
We're making now.
No, but Matthew McConaughey was like a spiritual advisor, right? But again, I don't also understand within religion how you can't be, and I'm, again, going to use words, if God is so awesome and omnipotent and powerful and amazing, why can't God be responsible for something more than in the here and now that we can taste, touch, see, and hear?
Look, we'll take that up on the other side. We'll be right back to the Broadway Court.
Thanks for streaming Wrong Way Forward, the weekly reminder that advice is usually free for a reason. We call out bad advice wherever it hides: boardrooms, break rooms, and even book clubs.
Enjoying this dumpster fire? Like, subscribe, and check back every Thursday for new episodes. Want us to roast your favorite piece of nonsense? Email us at wrongwayforwardpodcast@gmail.com. Be sure to include your contact info. We're not psychic, just judgmental. And now, back to Wrong Way Forward.
Roasting the worst advice ever. Welcome back to the Katy and Justin.
We're back, and once again, we are giving advice. We're talking about something we have absolutely no clue about.
Yeah, exactly.
I literally, my information and knowledge on this area, this subject matter, is very, very small, but I am very opinionated.
Well, what's interesting about this subject area is, again, it's evolving so fast that you can't not have an opinion. Like, again, 5 years ago, if we would have talked about this, people would have been like, what a dumb topic.
I mean, here's the thing that I think is dumb, and I might piss off some of our viewers, but these people who can't reconcile science and religion at the same time.
I just don't know that there are many people out there like that.
Yes, Justin. We're going to have to...
If you are, please text into the text line.
Well, unfortunately, my guess is we don't have many listeners who don't believe in science. But, I mean, I think there are quite a few people... I mean, there's a whole religion.
But what is wrong with saying in religion, like you said, that, and again, that back to that quote on God created man in 7 days. And then the lady says, God created man on earth in 7 days. I can't imagine how religious you are that you can't think God also may have created.
We were taught by the Jesuits that at the end of the day, God didn't create man in 7 days. That was a story that was told for us to understand and to have faith.
Okay, well, now you're getting smart on me. But I just can't imagine there are people still out there who don't believe there's something else out there. I mean, look at these videos. If you haven't watched these videos, and tell me how you explain that.
I mean, I think there are a lot of people who do not believe in science, and I think.
But we're not talking about science. We're talking about alien life science, which is a little bit different than physics.
Coming a little further.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't take alien life science in high school. You take chemistry, physics, and biology.
Yeah. Well, maybe people will soon. That's what's.
I would think so. I mean, and I think the way that we're treating our current Earth, we're going to have to look for other places to go.
Yeah, and that's what they're doing. 100%. That's what they're doing. That's why there's a lot of money to be made in that.
Yeah, and let's be honest. Money talks, bullshit walks.
Yeah.
So as long as you put a potential there, and
But also to make a fine point on that, how small-minded to be going to Mars because it has water when you could go to a planet that's closer that may not have water, and why not figure out that part of the equation? That,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
No, I completely agree.
Well, I think we have beaten this topic to death.
It is, but again, I just want to make a plug. We would love to hear from you.
I also just want to, before we go, I want to know, give me your movie review of Disclosure. How many stars did you give it? Because this is the other thing. I got home last night, and I had a major headache from that movie. But I'm like, I've got to see what smart people thought about this movie. So I went and I went to the Rotten Tomatoes. Do you know what Rotten Tomatoes scored?
That's where
No, do you know what it scored? No, do you know what its critic and moviegoer score was? 88%. And I thought, who the hell are these people? So then I went and read the reviews of professional critics, Peter Travers, New York Times, etc. And these people thought it was inspired and forward-thinking. And I thought, God, I'm an idiot.
No. We weren't. Anyone kind of drove me insane, this movie. And then there were so many things that were like just a little stretched and kind of unrealistic. And, and what is the guy? I loved him.
Josh O'Connor.
Yeah, Josh O'Connor. He's carrying around these like USB drives that light up like sabers.
Yeah, just make normal USB drives.
Thank you. I'm like, I don't know. I think, first of all, I did not care what happened to these people.
Oh, interesting.
And so I was not invested.
That's interesting.
Emily Blunt's character. I wasn't invested in Josh's character. I mean, I thought the most compelling character that I could get attached to
was the nun.
No, it was Carmen DeVito. If I'm not saying his name.
I'm not a big fan of him, but yeah.
But that was the only one that I'm like, oh, I care about.
And they never explained who he was. He played a huge part in this movie. We never knew who.
Colin Firth. I was like, who the hell are you and why are you here? And so I'm with you. I did not find it. But if it's getting people talking, I would probably give it
Love that.
2 stars.
And that's truly what art does, right?
100%. And hopefully it's getting people to talk about it. I think Hail Mary.
Well, firstly, 2 stars. I would go 2.5 stars. Yeah. I need to see it again, and I would watch it again.
I don't know if you would watch it again.
On my couch.
I was asleep at the beginning. There were many times I would look up, eyes were closed, and I don't know if you were like having the phone letter.
I was not. There were no moments to be had in the movie.
But my point is that I didn't have that...
Hail Mary moment.
Yeah, I didn't have that feeling in myself that it's like, what... I like walking out of a movie of this genre to have that things are bigger than us. And
Yes.
What are the questions of the world and what's the next step?
But you said you didn't care for Hail Mary.
No, I liked the message in Hail Mary. I thought Hail Mary was a little long.
It was long. I thought it could have ended like 5 times.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, thank God it's over. And then it would kept going. But I laughed in that movie. I cried in that movie. I felt deeply in that movie. I told my parents, you've got to watch it. And they, they don't watch that kind of stuff. And they went to dinner with their girlfriends and they said, you've got to watch. They watched, they loved it.
But I think for me, I walked out of that and I had these existential, bigger kind of conversation with myself and like, where am I am in the space of the world and, and what's happening. And this one, I was just like, Emily Blunt, stop messing with your face.
I would love it.
You can have wrinkles. You can have laugh lines.
I have never, and it's funny, once you said that, I looked at her, and in this movie, you did notice. I didn't notice it in Devil Wears Prada 2 or anything. This one, I definitely noticed.
Yeah, it drove me insane. And that's not fair for her because, again, now I feel bad because she's a female and she has different standards of beauty. And in order to get that picture in that film, she has to look a certain way where it's like a guy can look like he rolled out of a garbage can.
Well, I think that's a good fitting way to end.
Yes, but we would love to hear from you. If you've got we're just going to put it out there. If you have a crazy friend who doesn't believe in science, if you have someone who is maybe struggling with that kind of like religion and faith and spirituality, what that means in terms of alien life, or if you just think we're whack jobs, we would love to hear you. wrongwayforwardpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on all of our social media. And then also, if you just want to leave us a voicemail message, it will translate it. It's completely anonymous. What's that number?
720-251-4450. You can see it at your bottom of your screen. Again, 720-251-4450. We'd love to hear from you.
All right, that's a wrap on this week's episode of Wrong Way Forward. Remember, the only thing worse than taking bad advice is giving it.
If you've liked what you've heard, like, subscribe, or follow us wherever you stream podcasts. And if you've got a topic or need some advice we'll probably regret giving, email us at wrongwayforwardpodcast@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Wrong Way Forward.